Ndiyo. How much Swahili do you know?
Kidogo sana.
Dogo sana. Sana.
Okay.
Okay. Where do we start?
So, start with who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to give
Too much
gory
details.
details. You don't need to know how old you are,
Okay.
all your family members' names, but
I always have an issue with this question because beyond my name and my citizenship and my tribe.
okay, go with that.
Go with that? Okay. So I'm Kavuu Njeri Nduba. I'm a Kenyan of Kikuyu and Kamba descent. Yeah. Those are my tribes I belong to. I am 28, turning 29 this year. Mother of two boys, both under 5. I run a cooking business. I guess that's also something about me. I'm a graduate of USIU, United States International University Africa, majoring in international relations, diplomacy and foreign policy. But now I am more into cooking and content creation. Yeah, so in a nutshell, that's
like digital content.
Yes, digital content.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're launching my partner and I are launching a new YouTube channel called Refinery 254. So what we're basically hoping to achieve is telling African stories from an African perspective, because that's very lacking in today's world. People are always telling our stories. No one ever steps up from our end to say, hey, no, this is our perspective. This is what's happening at home. So that's what we're trying to do. Our company is called Nebula Media. So Refinery 254 is under Nebula Media.
And you'll give us the handles.
The handles. No, it's still in.
It's still in
yeah, it's still.
But even just for future reference.
Even future reference. So on Instagram we're at Refinery 254, and on Twitter as well we're at Refinery 254. That's basically what you need to find us. Yeah.
So, okay.
Yes.
So we were talking the other day about different dynamics in regards to children, little children, kind of the cycle of abuse, sexual and otherwise, that lead to adulthood, and in many cases issues in marriages, going relationships, etc. And you were talking about, you were talking about, I think we were discussing the issue of uncles or even fathers sexually abusing.
Neighbors as well.
Neighbors.
Yeah.
And kind of the backdrop or the context of that. So can you speak on some of those issues that you are aware of, and really try to give some insight on the historical context and how this situation can exist and has come to exist?
Okay, so I think I'll start off from the tail end of our conversation last time, where I was saying we're not so far removed from a history where prepubescent girls, and sometimes even boys, were of marriageable age, you see. So once someone has, say, gone through the rites of passage or started the menstrual cycle, they're considered ready for marriage. And it made, okay, I know this is going to sound off, but it made sense then, because the roles that we have in the modern world now are not what we had back then. Back then it was men were providers, doing the hunting, the gathering, protecting the community. Women were in the home or in the farmlands, basically in the home ground. And the role of a woman was to be a homemaker, a childbearer, and that started from very early. The signal for that was puberty. And puberty is what, 12, 13 years old. And from that point, there are different rites of passage, I guess, and I can only speak from, say, from a Kenyan perspective. Different tribes have different rites of passage. Some practice FGM, female genital mutilation, and once that's done, you're married off. Or sometimes it was simply, let's say, a form of counseling. You're taken away for, say, 3 months or so, hidden in a forest somewhere. The older women who counsel you, who show you how to be a wife, be a mother, run a home, please your husband. Basically just domestic matters. And once that's done, you come back home, you're married off. In many instances, you are married off even before you reached puberty in promised marriages. Say you give birth to a daughter, and your wife gives birth to a daughter, and I give birth to a son, and our families promise them to each other. That was a thing. And so even with the coming of colonialism and Christianity and all this modern things, there's still a part of that history that's still within us, that's not really been erased.
That history, pre-colonial history?
Pre-colonial history, yes, pre-colonial history. So that's why you still see things like polygamy practiced. Because the religions that are there now, especially Christianity, which is a dominant religion in Kenya, it only goes for monogamy. But the Constitution of Kenya allows for polygamy. So that just shows you how the divide between what was brought by our colonial masters, the Britons, and what is there, that's been there from back in the day. And so a lot of that culture hasn't changed, despite modern influences. And so people still feel like it's okay to marry 12, 13-year-old girls, to sexually assault 13, 14-year-old girls because they're ripe for the picking, they've attained womanhood. And I think that's where a lot of that mindset still comes from, because a big part of our mind still sees prepubescent girls as game. Let's call it that.
So, I guess within that context, I don't know how much sense this question may make, but during that pre-colonial period, would any of the things that happened, rites of passage, the marrying off during that age range, would that have been considered abuse?
No, not at all. It was just considered a part of life.
Where does so if that's the case, where has the abuse come in? Is it the coming of the foreign culture, which changed perhaps the economic relations within the society, or the roles within the society clashing with culture, the traditional culture?
It has, because women are no longer just seen as caregivers and homemakers and childbearers and just people who are kept in the home. We work now. We have careers. We sometimes don't even want families, and because of that switch in mindset, and because of that the idea that a girl is so much more than her ability to be a homemaker and to bear children, and because we want so much more from life now, because we realize we can get so much more, taking on a child as your, because that's what a 12, 13-year-old is. That's a child. Taking on a child as your wife is considered taboo now because you're cutting off her potential to be more. You see? And now because of that, it's looked down upon. Back then it wasn't an issue because that's the role that was assigned to us. That's who we were destined to be, even without our choice. That's who we were destined to be from birth. But now, because we have so many more options, because we realize how much we're losing out by marrying off these young girls who, if they're married off at that age, they're never gonna have careers. They're never gonna contribute anything to society other than the ability to be moms, you know. And so, because we've realized that, we're no longer embracing that culture. We're embracing a culture where we allow girls and young ladies to be whatever they want to be, to excel, to reach their full potential before they can become someone's partner. I guess that's the best way I could put it.
So, you also discussed the question of complicity in the cases of abuse and rape that have come from family members, even mothers, aunts, fathers. Can you speak upon that dynamic?
I think complicity came from shunning our traditions. You see, back in the day, speaking about intercourse and pregnancy and everything that comes with sex, you know, even desire, lust, it was normal. It was something that kids were educated on. Told once you get to a certain point in life, this is what you start feeling. You start being attracted to the opposite sex and such. But with the onset of, I guess I'll say again, religion and foreign religions and foreign mindsets, it became taboo to speak about these things. And so when it happens, people want to keep it hush hush. And when it happens to minors, people want to keep it hush hush even more. Especially in cases where sexual assault, yeah. Especially when, say for example, I'm married, right? My husband's the breadwinner, and this happens a lot, by the way. This happens a lot. My husband is the breadwinner. I have no other way to support my children. Maybe I sell vegetables, or I do menial jobs, and this is where the issue of lower class workers, this is where it comes in. And actually, sorry, no, complicity is actually across the board. But let me give this example in the case of lower class workers. My husband is the breadwinner. He brings in the bacon. He takes care of us. And say for example, he molests my daughter. The mindset is, I can't let him be incarcerated. I can't let him be punished, because if he is punished, I suffer, all my other children suffer. So I'm gonna be quiet about it. I'm gonna tell her to be quiet about it, and probably even shun her or send her off to live with her grandmother or her aunt or something of the sort, to prevent my, what should I call it? My bank account. Let's call it that. From leaving or from disappearing, you know. Otherwise, I'm going to be left destitute. And that's I think a big part of why people keep quiet, because of the power that men hold in society, especially economic power. Yeah.
But that part is clear, but the part that I'm struggling with is, what would precipitate a father to want to sexually assault or have sexual relations with his child? Is that also a historical legacy, or is that something